Imagine being so kind, so pure-hearted, and so honest that the world sees you as a fool. You offer nothing but compassion, and in return, you're met with cruelty, betrayal, and destruction. This isn't some cautionary tale. It's the central premise of Fyodor Dostoevsky's The Idiot, a novel that asks one brutal question. In a world full of greed, selfishness, and power struggles, does goodness stand a chance? The Idiot's main character, Prince Mishkin, is a rare thing in literature, a truly good man. But his goodness isn't celebrated. It's misunderstood, exploited, and ultimately punished. Through Mishkin's tragic journey, Dostoevsky explores a disturbing idea that in a flawed and brutal world, being truly good might not just make you vulnerable, it might make you an idiot. But is that really what Dostoevsky believed? Or was he trying to show us something deeper about human nature and morality? And most importantly, what can the idiot teach us about the cost of kindness today? Let's find out. To understand The Idiot, we need to understand its creator. Fyodor Dostoevsky was no stranger to suffering. By the time he wrote the novel, he had faced a mock execution, survived years in a Siberian labor camp, lost his first wife, and struggled with poverty and a relentless gambling addiction. Through all this, Dostoevsky wrestled with questions of faith, morality, and the nature of goodness. He conceived The Idiot as an attempt to portray a positively good man, a Christ-like figure in a modern, corrupted world. Enter Prince Lev Nikolaevich Mishkin, a gentle, compassionate man returning to Russia after years spent recovering from illness in a Swiss sanatorium. Mishkin's innocence and honesty immediately set him apart in the social circles of St. Petersburg, and not in a good way. Far from being admired, Mishkin's goodness is seen as naivety. His willingness to forgive and his refusal to manipulate others are treated as weaknesses. And as the novel unfolds, it becomes clear that Mishkin's purity makes him both an object of fascination and a target for destruction. But Mishkin isn't a simple fool, and that's where things get interesting. At the heart of Mishkin's tragedy is a question Dostoevsky never stops asking. Can true goodness survive in an imperfect world? Mishkin's compassion is absolute. He forgives without hesitation, loves without condition, and speaks the truth, even when it costs him everything. But instead of inspiring others, his goodness creates chaos. His honesty exposes hypocrisy, his kindness attracts exploitation, and his inability to navigate social games makes him vulnerable to manipulation. Take his relationship with Nastasia Filipovna, one of the most complex characters in the novel. A woman scarred by trauma and driven by self-destruction, Nastasia is drawn to Mishkin's kindness, but also repelled by it. She sees his love not as salvation, but as pity, and that pity fuels her own sense of unworthiness. In the end, Mishkin's attempts to save her only drive her deeper into despair. Then there's Rogozhin, Mishkin's dark mirror. Where Mishkin offers love, Rogozhin offers obsession. Where Mishkin seeks peace, Rogozhin is consumed by violence. Their rivalry over Nastasia becomes a battle between two extremes, and the outcome is nothing short of tragic. Through these relationships, Dostoevsky suggests that goodness, when stripped of wisdom and strength, can become dangerous. Mishkin's refusal to confront evil or set boundaries doesn't just hurt him, it hurts the people he's trying to save. So what exactly is Dostoevsky saying here? Is goodness a form of idiocy? Or is the world simply too broken to recognize true virtue? The answer, as always with Dostoevsky, is complicated. Mishkin's kindness isn't portrayed as wrong, but it is incomplete. His inability to navigate the darker sides of human nature leaves him powerless in the face of evil. And in Dostoevsky's universe, moral purity without strength leads not to salvation, but to ruin. But there's another layer here, because Mishkin does understand suffering. His experiences with illness have given him a deep sense of empathy and a profound awareness of life's fragility. What he lacks is the ability to balance that empathy with wisdom. In his quest to save others, he fails to protect himself, and in doing so, he becomes a cautionary tale. Dostoevsky wasn't condemning goodness. He was warning against a goodness that refuses to confront reality. Mishkin's tragedy isn't his kindness. It's his failure to recognize that sometimes love requires strength. Why does the idiot still resonate today? Because the struggle Mishkin faces is one we all know too well. We live in a world where kindness is often mistaken for weakness, where honesty can cost you dearly, and where compassion can be met with exploitation. But Dostoevsky's warning isn't a call to abandon goodness. It's a call to temper it with wisdom. True morality requires more than just good intentions. It requires courage, discernment, and the willingness to confront evil without becoming part of it. Mishkin's failure lies not in his goodness, but in his refusal to acknowledge that sometimes love must draw boundaries. But there's another reason this story endures. In Mishkin's unwavering compassion, we see a glimpse of something rare and precious, the belief that even in a broken world, goodness matters. And maybe, just maybe, that's not so idiotic after all. So, are good people idiots? Dostoevsky's answer is both yes and no. Goodness without wisdom can lead to ruin, but wisdom without goodness leads to something far darker. In the end, Mishkin's tragedy isn't just his own. It's a reflection of a world that punishes virtue and rewards cruelty. But his story also offers hope, because even in his failure, Mishkin reminds us of the power of compassion. And maybe, in a world desperate for kindness, a little foolishness is exactly what we need. But this also raises an important question for all of us. How do we remain good without being destroyed by the world's harshness? Perhaps the key lies in balance, in being kind without being naive, in offering love without losing self-respect, and in standing firm against injustice without succumbing to hatred. Mishkin's tragedy is a lesson in what happens when goodness remains passive. Our challenge is to make sure our kindness is active, courageous, wise, and resilient. So maybe good people aren't idiots. Maybe they're the bravest of all. Because in a world that thrives on cynicism and cruelty, choosing compassion is the most radical act there is. Thanks for listening.